boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys stayed up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8. 8 little soldier boys traveling in Devon. One got left behind, and then there were 7. 7 little soldier boys chopping up sticks. One chopped himself in halves, and then there were 6. 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. 5 little soldier boys going in for law. One got in chancery, and then there were 4. 4 little soldier boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. 3 little soldier boys walking in the zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. 2 little soldier boys sitting in the sun. One got frizzled up, and then there was 1. 1 little soldier boy left all alone. He went and hanged himself, and then there were none.
London's boat, another lot not too far behind.
Good evening, Fred.
Good evening, Mrs. Rogers.
Is that the boat?
Yes.
Oh, dear. Already? Did you remember everything?
I think so. Lemons, slip soles, cream, eggs, tomatoes, and butter. That's all, wasn't it?
That's right. So much to do, I don't know where to start. All these guests coming today, no maids till tomorrow.
Calm down, Ethel. Everything's shipshape now. Looks nice, don't it, Fred?
Looks neat enough for me. Kind of bare, but rich folks like places bare, it seems.
Rich folks is queer.
And he was a queer sort of gentleman who built this place. Spent a wicked lot of money on it, he did. Then he gets tired, pushes the whole thing up for sale.
Beats me why the Owens wanted to buy it. Living on an island.
Oh, come off it, Ethel. Take your things out to the kitchen. We'll be here any minute now.
Making that steep climb an excuse for a drink, I suppose. Like some others I know.
That'd be young Jim. I'll be getting along. There's 2 gentlemen arriving by car, I understand.
I shall need at least 5 loaves of bread in the morning and 8 pints of milk, remember?
Right.
Don't forget the oil, Fred. I ought to charge up the engine tomorrow, or I'll have the lights running down.
It was held up on railway. It's at the station now. I'll bring it back tomorrow morning.
And give a hand with the luggage, will you?
Right.
I forgot to give you the list of guests, Tom.
Thanks, old girl. Doesn't look like a very classy bunch, if you ask me. Miss Claythorne, she'll probably be the secretary.
I don't hold much for secretaries. Worse than hospital nurses. Putting on airs and graces. Looking down on the servants.
Oh, stop your grousing and cut out to that new, up-to-date, expensive kitchen of yours.
Too many newfangled gadgets for my fancy.
So, this is it.
How perfectly lovely.
Miss Claythorne.
Oh, you're Rogers?
Yes, good evening, miss.
Oh, good evening, Rogers. Oh, will you bring up my luggage and Captain Lombard's?
Very good, miss.
You've been here before?
Oh, no, but I've heard a lot about the place.
From Mr. and Mrs. Owen?
No, old Johnny Brewer, a pal of mine, built the place. It's a sad and poignant story.
A love story?
Yes, ma'am, saddest of all. He was a wealthy old boy, and he fell in love with the famous Lily Logan. Married her. He bought the island and built this place all for her.
Oh, most romantic.
Poor Johnny. He thought that by cutting her off from the rest of the world, without even a telephone as means of communication, he could hold her.
But of course, the family tired of her ivory tower and escaped.
Oh, yes. Johnny went back to Wall Street, made a few more millions, and the place was sold.
And here we are. Oh, I ought to find Mrs. Owen. The others will be up in a minute.
Well, it would be very rude of you to leave me here all by myself.
Oh, would it? I wonder where she is.
Oh, she'll come along when she's ready. While we're waiting, do you think I can have a drink? I'm very dry.
Of course you could.
Certainly warm after that steep climb. What's yours?
No, thank you, not for me. Not on duty.
A good secretary is never off duty.
Really, this is exciting.
What is?
All this. The smell of the sea, the gulls, the beach, and this lovely house. I'm going to enjoy myself.
I think you are. I think we both are. Here's to you. You're very lovely.
Where's Mrs. Owen?
Mr. and Mrs. Owen won't be down from London until tomorrow. I thought you knew.
Tomorrow? But
Here is a list of guests expected if you'd like to have it. The second boatload is just arriving.
thank you. How awful. I say, you will be sweet and help me, won't you?
I will move from your side.
Thank you. I say, it seems rather silly to have only brought the two of us up in the first boat and all the rest in the second.
That, I'm afraid, was design, not accident.
Design? What do you mean?
I merely suggested to the boatman that there was no need to wait for any more passengers. That and 5 shillings soon started the end.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Well, they're not a very exciting lot, are they?
I thought the foreign man was rather nice looking.
Obnoxious. Definitely obnoxious and very, very old.
I suppose you think a man in his 30s is more attractive.
My darling, I don't think I know.
Wizard place you've got here.
Oh, I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Oh, too bad.
May I introduce Captain Armbon, Mrs.
Marston. Miss Attorney Marston.
Have a drink?
Oh, thank you.
So, what will you have? Gin? Whiskey? Sherry?
Whiskey, I think.
Wonderful place you got here.
I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Say when.
Oh, wizard.
How are you?
My name's Lombard. Have a drink, Mr.
Oh, Davis. Davis is the name.
Mr. Davis, Miss Marston.
How do you do, Miss Marston? Pleased to meet you. Thank you, Mr. Lombard. Don't mind if I do. Bit of a stiff climb up here, but whew, what a view! And what a height! Reminds me of South Africa, this place.
Does it? What part?
Oh, Natal, Durban, you know.
Really?
Here's the temperance. Do you know South Africa?
Me? No.
Well, that's where I come from. That's my natal state.
Interesting country, I should think.
Oh, the finest country in the world, sir. Gold, silver, diamonds, oranges, everything a man could want. Talk about a land flowing with beer and skittles.
How do you do?
General Mackenzie, isn't it? Well, I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow. May I introduce Captain Armbard, Miss Marston, and Miss...
Davis! Davis is the name.
Whiskey and soda, sir.
Thank you. You, in the service?
Formerly in the King's African Rifles. Too tame for me in peacetime, so I chucked it.
Pity. When?
Where is Mrs. Owens?
Miss Brent, isn't it? I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and
Won't be down until tomorrow.
Indeed.
Extraordinary. Did she miss the train?
I expect so. Oh, won't you have something? May I introduce General Mackenzie, Captain Lombard, Ms. Marston. I think you all met on the boat, and Mr.
Davis. Davis is the name. May I take your case?
Won't you let me get you something to drink? A dry martini. Glass of sherry, whiskey and soda.
I never touch alcohol.
You never touch alcohol.
I suppose you know, young man, that you left us standing out there on the wharf.
I'm afraid I'm to blame for that, Miss Brent. See, I wanted
It
to...
seems rather extraordinary that Miss Owen should not be here to receive her guest.
Perhaps she's just the kind of person who can't help missing trains.
That's what I reckon she is.
That's just it. She isn't the least bit like that.
Perhaps it was her husband.
She hasn't got a husband. I should like to go to my room now.
Of course, I'll take you there.
Mrs. Rogers is upstairs. She will show you the room, miss.
I'm afraid our host and hostess haven't arrived yet, sir. My name is Lombard.
Wargrave mine, how do you do?
How do you do? Have a drink, sir?
Yes, please. Whiskey.
How do you do, Davis? Davis is the name. I must say, wonderful place you have here. Quite unique.
Yes. As you say, you're quite unique.
Your drink, sir.
Old Badger Berkeley roll up yet?
Who did you say?
Badger Berkeley, he roped me into this show. When's he coming?
I don't think he's coming. Nobody by the name of Berkeley.
That dirty old double-crosser! Oh, he sat me down. Well, it's a pretty wizard island, rather a wizard girl that's secretary, sure to liven things up a bit. I say, old man, how about dressing up for dinner if there's time?
Let's go and explore.
How wizard.
Things are a bit in sixes and sevens with the Owens not turning up.
Tricky, what? I say wizard place for a holiday.
Aren't you going to sit down?
Well, to tell you the truth, you seem to be sitting in my chair.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were one of the family.
Oh, it's not that at all. To tell you the truth, I've never been here. You see, I live at the Benton Club, have for the last 10 years, and my chair sits just about there. Can't seem to get used to sitting anywhere else.
Yes, it does become a bit of a habit.
Yes, it does. Thank you. It's a nice chair. Not quite as good as the one at the club, but nonetheless it'll do. To tell you the truth, I was quite surprised to receive this invitation. Haven't had anything of the sort for well over 4 years.
Can I have your keys, sir?
Is Lady Constance Cummington expected here, could you tell me?
Lady Constance Comington? No, sir, unless she's coming down with the Owens. Allow me, sir.
Oh, no, thank you. I prefer to unpack my own case.
Dinner is at 8 o'clock. Shall I show you your rooms?
Please.
Here you are, sir. I'll call Rogers. Thank you.
How do you do, Davis? Davis is the name.
Mine's Armstrong.
Oh, Dr. Armstrong, I believe.
Yes?
Thought so. Never forget a face.
Didn't tell me I've forgotten one of my patients.
Oh, no, nothing like that. But I did once see you in court giving expert evidence.
Really? You interested in law?
Well, you see, I'm from South Africa. Naturally, legal processes in this country are bound in interest of colonial.
Oh, yes, of course.
Have a drink.
No, never touched it. Thank you.
Mind if I do? Mine's empty.
Not a bit.
I've been having a look around the island. Wonderful place, isn't it?
Wonderful. On the way over from the mainland, I thought this was a haven of peace.
Too peaceful for some, I dare say.
Wonderfully restful, wonderful for the nerves. I'm a nerve specialist, you know.
Oh, yes, I know that. Did you come down by train?
No, I motored down. Dropped in on one of my patients. Good response, wonderful progress. One,
That's part of 200 miles, isn't it? How long did it take you?
oh, I didn't hurry. I never hurry. Bad for the nerves. Some mannerless young fellow nearly drove me into the ditch near Amesbury. Passed me going about 80, I would say. Terrible bit of driving. Wish I'd had his number.
Yes, if only more people would take the numbers of these young roadhogs.
Yes. You must excuse me. I must have a word with Mr. Owen.
But Mr. Owen isn't coming.
You rang, sir.
Yes, take my hat, will you? What time's up?
Dinner is at 8 o'clock, sir. In a quarter of an hour. I believe dressing will be optional.
Quite a good place, yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Been here long?
Just under a week.
That's all. Then I don't suppose you know much about the Cravats here.
No, sir.
All old friends of the family?
Really couldn't say so, sir.
Oh, Rogers!
Yes, sir.
Rogers, would you mind putting some sandwiches and a bottle of beer in my room at night? I get a hell of an appetite with this sea air.
I'll see what I can do, sir.
Rogers, I'll see you won't lose by it. Where's my room?
Let me show you, sir.
Wonderful. I can do with a wash and a brush up straight away.
Oh, there you are, Rogers. You ought to be cleaning up these dirty glasses. Always leaving the dirty work to me. Here I am with the four-course dinner on my hands and no one to help me. You might give me a hand with the dishing up. Who's that you were talking to, by the way?
Davis, South African gentleman. No class, if you ask me, and no money either.
I don't like him. Don't like any of them much. More like that bunch we had at the boarding house, I'd say.
Davis gives off that he's a millionaire or something, but you should see his underwear, as cheap as they come.
Well, as I said, it's not treating us right. All these visitors arriving today. No maid's coming till tomorrow. What do they think we are?
Now then, the money's good.
So it ought to be. Catch me going into service again unless the money's good.
Well, it is good, so what are you going on about?
Well, I can tell you this, Rogers. I'm not going to stay in any place where I'm put upon. Cooking's my business. I'm a good cook.
First rate, old girl.
But the kitchen's my place. Well, this housekeeping's none of my business. I have a good mind to put my hat and coat on and march straight back out to Plymouth.
You can't do that, old girl.
Who says I can't? Why not, I should like to know.
Because you're on an island, or had you forgotten that?
Yes. Don't see as I fancy being on an island.
Can't say that I do either. There's no slipping out to the pub or going up to the pictures. But it's double wages on account of the difficulties, and there's plenty of beer in the house.
That's all you ever think about. Beer.
Oh, stop your nagging and get back to your kitchen, or dinner will be spoilt.
It'll be spoiled anyway, I expect. Everybody will be late. Wasted on them anyway. Thank goodness I didn't make a souffle. Dinner won't be a minute, miss. Just a question of the dishing up.
Is everything all right, Rogers? Can you manage between the two of you?
Yes, thank you, miss. The missus talks a lot, but she gets it done.
What a lovely evening. Indeed, the weather seems very settled. How plainly one can hear the sea. How pleasant sound. Hardly a breath of wind. And deliciously warm. Not like England at all. I should have thought you might feel a little bit uncomfortable in that dress. Oh, no. It's rather tight, isn't it? I don't think so. Well, excuse me, my dear, but you're a young lady. You've got your living to earn. Yes. A well-bred woman isn't like a secretary to appear flashy. It seems though you are trying to attract the attention of the opposite sex. And would you say that I do attract them? That's besides the point, Miss Claythorne. A girl who deliberately sets out to get the attention of a male won't be likely to keep a job long. Ah, surely that depends on who she's working for. Really, Miss Claythorne? Aren't you being a little unkind? Young people nowadays behave in the most disgusting fashion. Disgusting? Yes! Low-backed evening dresses, lying half-naked on beaches, all this so-called sunbathing. Just an excuse for immodest conduct and nothing more. Familiarity, Christian names, drinking all these cocktails. Disgusting. And look at young people nowadays. And look at that young Miss Marston. What good is she? Oh, and that Captain Lombard. Well, what do you object to in Captain Lombard? I should say that he's a man who has led a very varied, interesting life. He's an adventurer. This younger generation is no good at all. You don't like youth, I see. What do you mean by that? I was just remarking that you don't like young people. And is there any reason why I should pray? No. It seems to me that you must miss an awful lot. You're very impertinent. I'm sorry, it's just what I think. The world will never improve until we stamp out immodesty. Quite pathological. What was that? Nothing.
What about the old boy?
He rather looks like a tortoise, didn't you think so?
All judges look like tortoises. They have that venomous way of darting their heads in and out. Mr. Justice Wargrave is no exception.
Oh, I didn't realize he was a judge.
Oh, yes. He's probably been responsible for sending more innocent people to their death than anyone in England. Oh, hello, you. Do you two know each other? Dr. Armstrong, Miss Claythorne. Armstrong and I were just discussing with the old boy.
Yes, I heard you. And so did he, I think. Oh, Sir Lawrence!
It's Briggs, isn't it?
Yes. I have to ask you a question. Would you come out here with me?
Remarkably fine night.
Supercharged sports for Atlantic Carlota. You would see many of them on the road. I can get over 100 out of her.
Did you come down from London?
Yes, 208 miles, and I did it in a bit over 4 hours. Too many cars on the road, though, to keep it up. Touch 90 going over Salisbury Plain. Not too bad, eh?
I believe you passed me on the road.
Oh, yes.
You nearly drove me into the ditch.
Did I? Sorry.
If I had your number, I'd be happy to report it.
But you were footling along in the middle of the road.
Footling? Me footling?
How about a drink, eh?
Good idea. Will you have one, Miss Claythorne?
No, No, thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Owen.
Why, Mrs. Owen?
Well, you make the most attractive wife for any wealthy businessman.
Do you always flirt so outrageously?
Always.
Oh, no. Well, now we know.
So tell me, what was old Miss Brent talking to the judge about? She tried to buttonhole him upstairs.
I don't know. Funny, she seemed so definite that there wasn't a Mr. Owen.
You don't think that Mrs. Owen, that they aren't?
But what? They weren't married.
It's a damn shame we don't know each other. I could have given you a lift down.
Yes, that would have been grand.
I'd like to show you what I can do across Salisbury Plain. Tell you what, maybe we can drive back together. But it seems damn silly. I've got an empty car.
Yes, but she likes the way she's going back, and
Look how sweet they are. These 10 little China soldiers. And that's the old nursery rhyme.
What are you talking about? What soldiers? What nursery rhyme?
10 little soldier boys going out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8.
8 little soldier boys traveling in Devon. One got left behind, then there were 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence please. You are charged with these indictments, that you did respectably and at diverse times commit the following. Edward Armstrong, that you did cause the death of Louisa Mary Christie. William Henry Bloor, that you brought about the death of James Stephen Landor. Emily Caroline Brent, that you were responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, that you killed Peter Ogilvie Hamilton. Philip Lombard, that you were guilty of the deaths of 21 men, members of an East African tribe. John Gordon Mackenzie, that you sent your wife's lover Arthur Richmond to his death. Antonia Jane Marston, that you were guilty of the murder of John and Lucy Combs. Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers, that you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady. Lawrence John Wargrave, that you were guilty of the murder of Edward Seaton. Prisoners at the bar, have you anything to say in your defense?
Oh, good God!
Gentle now. Easy.
Well, I hope that's
Easy. Come into the lounge. Quickly. Come on. Sit down gently.
She'll be okay. Tell her, she's fainted. She'll be around in a minute. Get some brandy.
Rogers, get some brandy.
Who was that speaking? It sounded like...
What's going on here? What sort of practical joke was that?
Where the devil does that voice come from? Here we are.
You are charged with these
Turn it
indictments.
off! Turn it off! It's horrible!
Disgraceful and barbarous joke.
So, you think it's a joke, do you?
What else could it be?
At the moment, I'm not prepared to give an opinion.
Who the devil turned it on, though, and set it going?
Yes, you must inquire into that.
Allow me to speak to her, sir. Ethel.
It's all right, do you hear? It's all right. Pull yourself together.
You'll be all right now, Mrs. Rogers. She's had a nasty turn.
Did I think, sir?
Yes.
It was that voice. That awful voice. Like a judgment.
Where's the brandy? Here you go, Mrs. Rogers.
I'm all right. It just gave me a turn.
Of course it did. Gave me quite a turn, too. Wicked lies it was.
What was it? Put that record on the gramophone. Was it you, Rogers?
I was just obeying orders, sir.
Whose orders?
Mr. Owens.
To get this clear, Mr. Owen's orders were what exactly?
I was to put a record on the gramophone, sir. I'd find them in a drawer in the study there. It had a name on it, so I was to start with that one. I thought it was just to give you all some music.
Very remarkable story.
It's the truth, I tell you. By heaven, it's the truth. I didn't know what it was. It just had its name on it. I thought it was just a piece of music.
Is there a title?
Title? Yes, sir. It's entitled Swan Song.
Preposterous. That's what it is, preposterous. Slinging accusations about like that. This man, Owen, whoever he is.
That's just it. Who is he?
That is what we must look into very carefully. I should think you get your wife to bed, Rogers, and then come back down here.
100%.
Oh, will she be all right, Doctor?
Oh, yes, quite all right.
I don't know about you, sir, but I feel I need another drink.
I agree.
I'll get that.
Preposterous. That's what it is, preposterous.
Whiskey for you, Sir Lawrence?
Oh, I should like a glass of water, please. Oh, yes, I'll get it. I'll have a little whiskey, too.
She'll be all right. I gave her a sedative.
Now then, Doctor, you'll want to drink after all this.
No, never touch it.
Right, so you said. You have this one, General.
Yes.
Now then, Rogers, we must get to the bottom of this. Tell us what you know about Mr. Owen.
Well, he owns the place, sir.
I'm aware of that fact. I would like you to tell me what you yourself know of this man.
I can't really say, sir. I've never seen him.
What do you mean you've never seen him?
We've just been here under a week, sir, my wife and I. We were engaged by letter through a registry office, the Regina in Plymouth.
That's a high-class firm. We can check on that.
Have you got the letter?
The letter engaging us all. Yes, sir.
Go on with the story.
We arrived like the letter said on the 4th. Everything was in order, plenty of food in stock, everything very nice. Just needed some dusting and that.
What next?
Nothing, sir. We were to prepare the rooms for a house party. 8. And then yesterday, through the Morning Post, I received a second letter saying that Mr. and Mrs. Owen might be detained, and we were to carry on with orders, such as getting dinner ready and putting the record on the gramophone. Here is that letter.
Headed Ritz Hotel, typewritten.
Coordination machine number 5. Point new. No defects. Ends in paper, most common make. We shan't get much out of this. We could try for fingerprints, but it's been handled too much already.
Quite a little detective.
He's got some fancy Christian names, hasn't he? Euland Norman Owen. Quite the mouthful.
I'm obliged to you, Miss Marston. You've drawn my attention to a most curious and suggestive point. I think the time has come for all of us to pool our information. I think it would be well for us to all come forward with what information we have on our unknown host. We are all his guests. I think it would be profitable if each would explain exactly how that came about.
There's something very peculiar about all this.
You going to drink that?
I received a letter that was hard to read. It purported to be from Ogden, that's what I took it as. It was from a certain summer resort I met 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm fairly certain that I've never met or become friendly with anyone of the name Owen.
You have the letter.
Oh, yes, I'll go fetch it for you.
Miss Claiborne?
I never actually met Mrs. Owen. I wanted a holiday post and applied through a secretarial agency. Well, Miss Grenfell's in London. I was offered this post and accepted.
You never interviewed with your prospective employer?
No. Here's the letter.
Thank you. Soldier Island, Central Haven, Devon, Deer. Mr. Claiborne, I received your name from Miss Grenfell's agency. I understand she knows you personally. I should be glad to pay you the salary you ask and to expect you to take up your duties on August 8th. The train is at 12:10 from Paddington, and you will be met at Oak Ridge Station. £5 for expenses. Yours truly, Una Nancy Owen. Thank you. Miss Marsden.
I don't actually know the Owens. I got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Berkeley. It surprised me a bit because I thought the old horse had gone to Norway. I haven't got the wire.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
Under the circumstances, I think that I should state that my visit here is entirely professional. Mr. Owen wrote to me concerned with his wife's health, knows to be specific, suggested they want to alarm her with a report, so he suggested that I be treated as a regular guest.
You had no previous acquaintance with the family?
No.
But you had no hesitation taking obeying the summons?
No, a colleague of mine was mentioned, a handsome fee was suggested, and we needed a holiday anyway.
Thank you. Thank you. Dear Miss Brent, I do hope you remember me. We were together at Bellhaven Guest House in August some years ago. We seem to have so much in common. I'm starting up a guest house of my own on an island off the coast of Devon. I think there's really an opening for a place where there's good, plain English cooking and a nice, old-fashioned type of person. None of this nudity and gramophones half the night. I'd be very glad if you could see your way to spending your summer holiday on Soldier Island, as my guest, of course. I suggest August 8th, 12:40 from Paddington to Oak Ridge. Yours sincerely, U.N. The signature is somewhat ambiguous.
I like the nudity touch.
Here's my own decoy letter from an old friend of mine named Constance Cullington. She writes her usual vague, incoherent way, inviting me to join her here, described our host and hostess in the vaguest of terms.
Now look here, I've just thought of something.
Oh, just a minute.
But I can...
No, we will take one thing at a time, if you do not mind, Captain Lombard. Now, General Mackenzie.
Received a letter from this fellow Owen. Thought I must have met him sometime at the club. He mentioned some old cronies of mine who were to be here. Please excuse the informal invitation. Haven't kept the letter, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Now, Captain Lombard.
Same sort of thing, really. Invitation mentioning mutual friends. I haven't kept the letter either.
Just now, we have had a somewhat disturbing experience. An apparently disembodied voice spoke to each of us by name, uttering certain definite accusations against us. Take care of those accusations presently. At the moment, I am interested in a minor point. Amongst the names mentioned was that of William Henry Blore. Now, to the best of our knowledge, there is no one named Blore amongst us. The name Davis, however, was not mentioned. How do you explain that, Mr. Davis?
Cat's out of the bag, it seems. I guess I'd better admit my name isn't Davis.
You are William Henry Blore?
That's right.
I will add something to that. Not only are you here under a false name, Mr. Lord, but in addition this evening, I've noticed that you are a first-class liar. See, you claim to come from natal South Africa, but I know South Africa and Natal well, and I'm prepared to swear you haven't set foot there in your entire life.
You all got me wrong. I'm an ex-CID man. Oh, come on. I got my credentials and I can prove it. I run a detective agency in Plymouth. I was put onto this job.
By whom?
By Mr. Owen. Sent in a very nice money order for expenses and said I was to join the house party, posing as a guest. He also sent me a list of all your names and told me to keep an eye on you all.
For what reason?
Said Mrs. Owen had some valuable jewels. Mrs. Owen, my foot! I don't believe there's any such person.
I believe your conjecture is justified. Ulrich Norman Owen. Una Nancy Owen. Or in each case, U.N. Owen. Slight stretch of fancy, unknown.
That's fantastic. It's mad.
I have no doubt in my mind we have been invited here by a madman. Quite probably a dangerous homicidal lunatic.
Oh my God.
Yes, but whoever it is who has enticed us here has taken the trouble to learn a great deal about each of us. A very great deal. And through that knowledge, has made certain definite accusations.
It's all very well.
I wish to say this. Our unknown host has accused me of the murder of one Edward Seaton. I remember Seaton quite well. He came up before me for trial in June of 1930. He was charged with the murder of an elderly woman. He was ably defended and made a good impression on the jury from the witness box. However, on the evidence, he was most certainly guilty. I summed up as such and agreed with the verdict of guilty which the jury had brought in. There was an appeal made based on the grounds of misdirection. The appeal was dismissed and the man was duly executed. I should like to say this before you all, that my conscience is perfectly clear. I did my duty and no more. I'm passed sentence on a rightly convicted murderer.
Tell me, did you know Seaton at all? Any person?
I knew nothing of Seaton prior to the trial.
Oh, he's lying. I'll swear he's lying.
This fellow's a madman. Absolute madman. He's got a bee in his bonnet. Got hold of the wrong end of the stick all round. Best to leave this sort of thing unanswered. However, I would like to say I resent very much the accusations about me toward young Arthur Richmond. He was one of my officers. I sent him on reconnaissance. He was killed in 1917. Also like to say, resent very much the slander upon my wife. Greatest woman in the world. Absolutely. Caesar's wife.
I've just been thinking. John and Lucy Combs. Must have been a couple of kids I ran up in at Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me, but of course you're right, Sam. It was damn bad luck for them too. They rushed out of some cottage or other. Of course it was pure accident. I had my license suspended for a year. It was beastly nuisance.
This speeding is wrong. All wrong. Young people like you are a danger to the community.
Well, I couldn't help it. It was just an accident.
Might I say a word, sir?
Go ahead, Rogers.
There was mention of myself and Mrs. Rogers and a Miss Jennifer Brady. There isn't a word of truth to it. We worked for Mrs. Brady. She was always sick since the day we came to her. There was a storm the night she died. The telephone was out, so we couldn't get the doctor to her. So I went for him on foot, sir. But he got there too late. She was dead when we got there. There wasn't a word said against us. Devoted to her we was. You can ask anyone. Anyone.
Came into a nice little something at her death, I suppose, didn't you?
Miss Brady left us us a legacy in recognition for our faithful service. And I'd like to know, why not?
What about yourself, Lord?
What about me?
Well, your name was on the list.
I know. Landlord, you mean? That was the London Commercial Bank robbery.
I seem to recall the name, though the case didn't come before me. Landor was convicted on the basis of your evidence. You were the police officer in charge of the case.
I wasn't, Lord.
Yes. I believe Landor got penal servitude for life and died in Dartmoor a year later. He was a delicate man.
He was a crook! It was him that put the night watchman out. The case was clear from the start.
Yes, and I also believe you were complimented quite well on your able handling on the case.
I got my promotion. I was only doing my duty.
Ooh, convenient word, duty. What about you, Doctor?
I'm at a loss to understand it at all. The name meant nothing to me. What was it? Close? I don't recall ever having a patient of that name or being associated with death in any way. Complete mystery to me. Of course, it was a long time ago. May have been one of my operation cases at hospital. Well, there's people come too late, many of them, and if the patient dies, it's always the surgeon's fault.
Then it's better to take up nerve cases and give up surgery. So, of course, give up drink.
I protest. You have no right to insinuate such things. I do not touch alcohol.
My dear fellow, I never suggested you did. Anyway, Mr. Unknown is the only one with all the facts.
Miss Claythorne?
I was nursery governess to Peter Hamilton. We were in Cornwall for the summer. He was forbidden to swim out far. One day, my attention was distracted. He started off. As soon as I saw what happened, I swam after him. But I couldn't get there in time.
Was there an inquest?
Yes. I was exonerated by the coroner. His mother didn't blame me either.
Thank you. Miss Brent?
Me? Oh, I have nothing to say.
Nothing?
Nothing.
You reserve your defense.
There is no question of defense. I have always acted accordingly to the dictates of my conscience.
Well, what a law-abiding lot we all seem to be. Oh, myself accepted.
We are waiting for your story, Captain Lombard.
I am not a story.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry to disappoint all of you. It's just that I plead guilty. It's all perfectly true. I left those natives alone in the bush. A matter of self-preservation.
You abandoned your men.
Not quite the proper act of a gentleman, I'm afraid. But self-preservation is a man's first duty. And natives don't mind dying. They don't feel about it as Europeans do.
Yeah, I think we should let our inquiry rest there. Now, Rogers, who else is on this island other than ourselves and you and your wife?
Nobody, sir. Nobody at all.
You're quite sure?
Quite sure.
Thank you. Well, don't go just yet, Rogers. I'm not yet clear as to the purpose of the man who has gotten us to assemble here. However, I feel he is not sane in the usual sense of the word. He may be dangerous. I feel it would be well for us to leave here as soon as possible.
Yes.
I suggest we leave here tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Pardon. But there's no boat on the island.
No folk at all.
No, sir.
Telephone the mainland.
There's no telephone, sir. Fred Narcott brings over the post, the paper, the bread, all of it in the morning.
herself. Suicide? That's a wrong go.
Well, you wouldn't think she'd commit suicide. Well, she was still alive. She was enjoying herself.
Look,